This is the Vita 3G SD storage expander version 3.2. It is a revision that learns from the version 1.3 board. When I set out to make a Vita storage expansion card, I knew the PSVSD existed. I also knew that people had a difficult time getting their hands on them. So I thought I'd make something that was cheaper for the consumer and simpler in design. For the most part, it succeeded. For the most part. I wasn't happy about some things, and some cards ended up not being compatible with it, so I knew there was room for improvement. Up until now, I've only sold the 1.3 boards. Version 2.0 was basically just a version of 1.3 that was supposed to be an all-in-one that did away with the need of an extender. It would have been a good idea, but several factors prevented it from seeing the light of day, which is a shame considering how well it fit. So I scrapped it altogether. Version 3 came about from feedback and messages I exchanged from some buyers or any issues that came about. I soldered every single version 1.3 board by hand and I did my best to quality control them. Ultimately, I just wanted to make something better than what I had already done and spent the last half a year or so prototyping a new design. Before I go on, I will explain some changes and tests. The first change is with the LED. Some people will find it a bit disappointing and others will find it irrelevant, but the LED is an optional feature on this version of the board. Like my other storage boards, I've come to the conclusion that not many people care much for the LED light once the enclosure is shut tight. You never see it, you mostly only use it to check if it's operating correctly from a visual perspective, and it adds to power drain in the long run. Because I'm using a different controller chip than both my older design and the PSVSD 2.1, there is no activity light. The LED turns on the moment it comes into contact with the Vita's connector and stays on even when the Vita is off. Mind you, the LED is still on the board and can be turned on by bridging the pads next to it. Otherwise, it is off by default. Change 2 comes with performance. On paper, the controller chip used is better than what the PSVSD and my previous board has. Whether the Vita can take full advantage of that will vary greatly depending on the use case for it. One example is copying a large file from the card into internal storage shows a small improvement over a PSVSD 2.1, while writing to the card from internal shows a marginal improvement. On the gaming side, I ran a series of bootups and loading times comparing to the PSVSD. On most games, there's a small improvement and varied from game to game. To be fair, loading times were about the same most of the time. There does seem to be differences between running a game for the first time and then running the game again the second time or more. I imagine there's some caching happening, but I am not too knowledgeable on that. I also believe that a lot of Vita games just have smaller chunks of data to read, and that ultimately doesn't allow for the read speeds to fully take off on the new chip. Granted, I only tested a handful of games, so there might be other games or homebrew that will take advantage of it. Because of this, be sure to use a UHS 3 microSD card, which in today's world is basically any card you can buy today. Next up is the battery. Regular usage performed in line with a PSVSD, greatly depending on whether you played simpler games or graphically demanding ones. No real surprise there. Initial battery tests have been positive and have kept in line with the PSVSD altogether. The off test, where I turned on the Vita every 12 hours to check the battery level, came down to about a percent of battery per 12 hours for both cards. So nothing special there. I then tested the Vita on standby with no memory card inserted. Wi-Fi is on, Wi-Fi power save is on. I checked every 12 hours. Initially had a bigger drop at the start, but ultimately only shaved off about 2 to 3% per 12 hours and landed at a trend of about 16 and a half days. I will note that this test was done with my old battery that hadn't been changed and had lower health. My battery cables ended up snapping due to the amount of times I've opened and shut my Vita, so I had to replace it for the next test. The next test was the same, only with the memory card inserted. The reason I did it with the memory card in this is that there have always been some reports of people saying that there's more drain with the memory card. Whether that's old news or not, I still thought I'd test it and see if it made a difference. Ultimately, it did not and did the same 2 to 3% per hour. Setup is still the same way you'd set up a PSVSD. If you already have a PSVSD 2.1 or have set up your Vita to use a PSVSD, you can pop this in and the card will work. I am selling these at a little higher than my last cards, but I think it's a fair price. The cost of everything has gone up, unfortunately, but I just want more people to have access and enjoy their Vita to their fullest. Thanks for watching, and hope you guys enjoy.